Well, welcome everybody to roll of another month, right? It's September 1st already. Can you believe that?
Thank you.
2/3 of the year is gone
We're almost back.
already. Belle's already counting how many days it is till Christmas. She's got that app on her phone. She's like, it's like 96 days and 7 hours. Yeah. Oh boy. You know how that goes too, right? Now, the older they get, the less presents there are. But watch what the price tags do, right? Yeah, you know, went from Barbie to iPhone 10, like oh.
So your daughter's gonna be counting her age, right?
Oh, go away. Inside joke from yesterday. All right, anyway, that's not what we're here to discuss today. All right, so quick recap from lesson 1. We were talking about Noah, right? I wanted to mention a couple of things that I didn't get to. Okay, first of all, the ark was built by amateurs, the Titanic by professionals. Which one worked out better? Think about that one, huh? Okay. And if you look at popular paintings, things like that, you know, sketches, what is the ark always shown looking like? It looks like a ship, right? It's got a big fancy pointed nose to it and everything, and they have the big keel in the painting. I'm pretty sure that's wrong.
Yeah.
I'm very sure that that's wrong.
I'm sure the nose is flat.
I'll tell you a couple of reasons why. What kind of propulsion did the ark have?
None.
It had no sails, it had no diesels, it had no turbine engines, it had no propellers, it had no propeller shafts, it had no machinery of any type. It was just a giant floating craft. It did not need to go anywhere. As Pastor pointed out on Thursday, all it had to do was what? Lift. It had to get above the destruction, is how you put it, right? Above the wreckage. So it didn't have to go anywhere. It did. It floated around, you know, because it was wind and waves pushing it. But literally, it didn't have to go anywhere. It didn't even have anchors. It had no anchor chains. It had no anchors. There was no windlasses. You know, they didn't have winches. They had no machinery. They didn't need it.
No winches?
So, in my opinion, this thing was probably a giant box. The bow and the stern would have been flat. So if you've ever seen a river barge, you've probably seen a steel ark. That's pretty much what they look like. It's just a giant box. So, you know, why would I bring that up? Well, first of all, like I said, there's no machinery. Second of all, Noah was not a nautical engineer. And God gave him a task that took him 100 years. Right? That was enough time. He didn't tell him, oh yeah, you know, this thing's got to be fancy. I want it curved in, you know, and I want this beautiful yacht type profile bow on it. You know, this thing's going to be slick. And he's like, how am I going to do that? How am I going to shape timbers to curve like that? He's like, I don't have any machinery. I don't have a CNC cutter. Why would you go through all of that trouble? He's going to make it the simplest that he can because God already knows that Noah is not an engineer and doesn't have those kind of tools. It's going to be hard enough for him to shape. I have no idea how many tons this thing weighed. But you can imagine it was an awful lot of trees to build a ship 450 feet long and 75 feet wide. You don't do that in a week. Why complicate it by making it all curved and fancy? It doesn't need it. God doesn't do things by accident, and he doesn't do things overcomplicated. When it needs, it needs. When it doesn't, he lets it go.
It was a 40-day storage.
Brother Steve said it was a 40-day storage unit. Well, yeah, that's sort of correct. If I remember right, I think they said by the time it actually landed on the mountain, it was about a year. But yeah, he's right. It was 40 days, 40 nights of basically, what is it? Hurricane Dorian, right? It's coming to Florida, I think, right? It's supposed to pause there for a day or two. Well, imagine that thing parked there for 40 days, just having its way. That's pretty much what the beginning of the trip looked like. And then it got calmer, and they could open up the window and look out, and they saw sky, but still on land. All right, so y'all know the rest of that story. I think we got that one covered. Excuse me. So let's move forward out of Genesis. Let's go to Exodus. Let's talk about somebody who came after Moses, but a bit after, actually.
How do I make the thinking go away? The person show up.
Yeah.
Oh, no, working.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, full background.
Thank you. I take that.
Oh, I like that. I definitely like that. Got some light views going on. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we know about Joseph, right? And he was salvation in the light too. Really, wasn't he? Right? Because wasn't the end of that story, after all he went through, that he went through? Right? The officer's wife tries to have him arrested or killed. She lies on him and says, this man tried to rape me. He wanted to have his wife. This unwashed, dirty Hebrew he brought into my house. She comes up with all of this stuff throwing names at him. And she's far 1,000 times dirtier. He didn't do anything wrong. Every one of those was a lie. So he gets to prison, right? And first he was a slave because his brother sold him. But yet, at the end of the story, you find out that not only does he forgive the rotten things that his brothers did to him, but there was a famine where they came from. They came to Egypt for food, and they lived because Egypt had food, because they were smart. They listened to Joseph's warning. Because Pharaoh said, I don't understand this dream. I see these things going on. I see these fat cattle. I see these really starved, mad cow-looking cattle. And then I see this very bad-looking harvest, wind blasted. Pharaoh's smart enough to listen. Not only did he protect Egypt, he also saved his family, didn't he? Because they needed food. They would have perished otherwise. Right? So after all of that, it tells us that they stayed. Well, it started out with, what did it say, 70, I believe? 70 people or thereabouts was in his family. When you hear by the time we get to this story, we're talking about 2 or 3 million. So not only were they slaves, they were very reproductive. We'll leave it at that. They definitely were getting the part in Genesis where it said go out and multiply. They multiplied. So here we pick up the story at that problem. The children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceeding mighty, and the land was filled with them. So why would you think that would be a problem? Well, apparently it was. Now there rose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. So Pharaoh, who had the dream, just like every man, eventually ages and dies, right? As did Joseph. Now we got some new guy, and either Pharaoh didn't leave notes, or the new Pharaoh just didn't care about what the old notes said. He's looking around, and he says, I think I'm really, really worried. Our slaves outnumber us. And right now, they're fairly happy and fairly peaceful and fairly pacified, but that may not last. What do we do about it? He's concerned about a civil war, basically, that they're going to rise up. It says to his people, behold, the people of children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply and come to pass, and when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. So basically, he's saying in his own words here, or the words that are recorded, that I'm worried they'll turn against us. And if they do, and they line up with another army that's already coming, we're finished. The other army may have been enough to beat us, but if we have however many men they can field join with them against us, we're out of luck. To be nice and clean about it, right? Therefore they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burden. They built for Pharaoh the treasure cities, Pithom and Ramesses. And the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew, and they were grieved because of the children of Israel. So they figured that their good solution here was to lock them up, put chains on them, and keep them too busy to think about revolting, right? If you're working 17 hours a day, are you going to be thinking about doing anything else but sleep? You're like, man, I hurt all over. I'm done. I'm exhausted. I'm not thinking about, hey, let's start a revolt. Let's have a civil war. Let's go talk to the enemies and see if we can get in here and get something going on. They were too tired and beat down to think about it, weren't they? That's what it says. The more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. So now they're really worried because it ain't working. They're trying what they thought was going to be this great trick, and it's actually turned against them, turned out to be worse. They're coming up on them more. Now there's more of them. Now they're really starting to think, you know what, I think we can kick this guy out. This ain't cool. They're treating us horrible. There's more of us than there are of them. So why are we putting up with it? Let's do something about it. We start, kicking around thoughts and schemes here. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel serve with rigor. And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage of mortar and of brick, and all manner of service in the field. All their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor. And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of the one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Puah. And he said, when you do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women and see them upon the stool, if it be a son, then you shall kill him. If it be a daughter, then shall she live. So wow, they're really going far over the edge here now, aren't they? They went from being worried about what was going on to turning them to slavery, pushing them down, making them work real hard. They're still seeing it ain't working. Now they're getting to eugenics and murder. They're like, well, okay, if it's boys, we got trouble with them. They're going to grow up. They can be soldiers, and they're also going to keep reproducing, aren't they? So we got two problems going on here, and that's what they were thinking in their eyes, right? We got to do something about this. The midwives feared God and did not, as the king of Egypt commanded them, to save the men children alive. So now they're doing an end run. Right? They said, you don't need to kill any boys. Well, they're not too good with that idea. They're going, well, you know what? I'm just going to lie. I'm going to do this in secret. And the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said to them, why have you done this thing and have saved the men children alive? And the midwife said to Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, for they are lively and are delivered ere the midwife come in unto them. So they made up this story that, instead of labor being hours or a day or whatever, sometimes it doesn't go that long. They're just saying, I'm just sitting there with a catcher's mitt just waiting for that kid to just come bouncing right across home plate, right? I didn't make it in time. Kid popped right out. Hey, it's all right. That's how it is. I don't think it's buying. That's the story they're giving, right? Therefore, God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and waxed very mighty. So now they went from mighty to very mighty. Because God said, I'm not big on infanticide here. So y'all are defying your masters, but I'm going to bless you for that. Because you're doing the right thing. You're not killing the kids. So now it says, they waxed mightier. They came to pass because the midwives, the midwives feared God, he made them houses. And Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, every son that is born he shall cast into the river, and every daughter he shall save alive. So now he's stepping up the game here even harder, because he's realizing that they are defying him openly. And, this little story about, right over the plate there. Nah, come on, really? He's like, they ain't pulling this one off. So he just comes right out and says, we're gonna take care of business here. We're just gonna take all those boys and we're gonna drown them. And then what it says? It said to throw them in the river, right? Well, I ain't seen too many babies that swim all that good, so I don't think they're gonna survive this. So now he thinks he's got an answer. Like, all right, they want to play games with me? All right, we'll notch it up then. And there went a man of the house of Levi and took to wife a daughter of Levi. And the woman conceived and bare a son, and when she saw that he was a goodly child, she hid him for 3 months. And when she could no longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrushes and daubed it with slime and pitch, and put the child therein, and she laid it in the flags by the river's brink. What do we kind of see a little bit in common here between this story and the last story? We're talking about water again, aren't we? And we're talking about a boat again, aren't we? A very small ark. Yeah, big enough for one baby. Right? But look at the construction. No, it wasn't made out of gopher wood, but slime and pitch. And what did we find out was the waterproofing in the ark, on the inside and the out? Simply what? Pitch. So we got us a little baby ark, don't we? So she puts him in there. You know, we know the story here, and off he goes, right? His sister stood afar off to see what happened. The daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and her maids walked along by the river's side. When she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. And when she opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the baby wept. The baby was crying. And she had compassion on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." And so the sister of Pharaoh's daughter shall go and call to be a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for thee. Oh, look how this comes around full circle, right? This is great. And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go," and the maid went and called the child's mother. Completely unknowing, but look how much cooler this gets. She gets paid to take care of her own kid.
Yes.
And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child away and nurse it for me, and I'll give thee thy wage." She's like, yeah! Talk about an end run. Not only did your son not die, you now are getting paid to take care of said little whiny brat, who is probably going to be a lot of trouble, because kids always are, but look, she's getting paid for it. That ain't too bad. Some people don't think that being a mother is a job. I think they're insane. I've seen what it involves. It is very tough. That should be respected. But not only does she have a job here, she's getting paid for that job, which is not true for most mothers. This ain't too bad, is it? He's getting a salary here as well. So let's jump forward. So, you know, when he grows up, right, it says that he was basically taken in to their house and basically to their college, and he was educated in all of the engineering and all of the ways that the Egyptians know. And I mean, we still see a lot of the things they constructed are still out there. Pyramids still exist. A lot of the temples. And some of these things are absolutely massive. So these guys are not idiots. They understood engineering very well. And they built for ages. And we put up a building, we're going to be lucky, it stands a couple 100 years. These guys are talking thousands. I don't know if they knew that these things would be around that long, but they built them well. Most of them are stone. And if you have no rain and you built them correctly and you don't get earthquakes, which actually the geologic area of Egypt is pretty stable, these things can last for a long, long time. So we still see a lot of that architecture remaining. So they know what they were doing, and he was privileged to be taught all of this because he was basically adopted right into Pharaoh's house. So we know the in-between story there, right? So he's out and he sees a Hebrew being beaten, and he kills one of the Egyptians, and he gets caught, and he knows, and he has to run. Right, so then he's 40 years in the back end of the desert, and then he comes back. So we're going to hop forward a little bit for the sake of time, and we're at Exodus 14 and 13. All right, so we remember all the plagues. I probably don't have to reiterate through all that. Right? He says, basically goes back and sees his adopted brothers and his adopted parents and says, I'm here. I'm taking all of your slaves with me. And Pharaoh goes, yeah, I don't think so. So we know how that went, right? He went through all the plagues, tried to force his hand. Eventually he says, okay, you know what? Now I really have to drop the hammer. So he sends the angel of death. Right? We have Passover night, right, which we still observe now. Everybody remembers that one too, right? The angel of death goes and said, if you strike blood on the doorpost, I'm going to pass over, and the firstborn are killed. And finally, Pharaoh says, okay, you know, it's enough. Get out. I'm done. I can't defy you anymore. Obviously, your God is bigger than mine. Go. Then changes his mind again and sends the army to chase them. And Moses says, fear ye not, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will show to you today. The Egyptians whom you have seen today, ye shall see them again, no more forever. So I've heard people state, and I haven't found anything to back this up, that Pharaoh died with them as well. Why would that be? Would he be in the front of his army? He had generals. Yeah. And I have not been able to find any documentation out of all of the pharaohs that lived and their periods of reign, that were written down, because they were also pretty meticulous record keepers. Besides all the engineering feats they did, they like to write things down. They wrote things down in black. And I never found anybody that was noted that the pharaoh died by drowning. So he sent his army out. It's not any stretch at all to have a problem believing that, but he did not die there. His army was wiped out. So at this point, Moses led the nation of Israel out of Egypt into the desert, was pursued by the army of Pharaoh, he was talking about, crossed the Red Sea, watched the Egyptian army perish. And then, what happened next? 40 years they were in the wilderness, right? Why? Because even after being shown the arm and the strength of God and the salvation that he delivered by taking them out of their slavery, they rebelled against him anyway, didn't they? Didn't they want to stone Moses? Weren't they getting together? They actually wanted to kill him, did they not? They said, you dragged us out of here. We're in the middle of the desert. We have no graves in the desert. Why didn't you just let us perish back in Egypt? That's pretty harsh. That's pretty harsh. And for that, they were punished. He didn't take away his promise entirely, but he altered the deal, didn't he? He said, because you did this, now you're forcing me to do this. Moses, you shall stand at the very edge and look upon and never make it. You will not get there. So that tells us that salvation is not free entirely. It cannot be purchased. It's freely given by God. But there are some caveats and provisos, as lawyers like to say. You ever try to read one of those? Does anybody ever read the licensing agreement for software? You ever look at that? It's like 7 pages long and the type's like that big, and you're like, oh yeah, just click here to accept. Does anybody ever actually read that stuff? No, because the lawyers gin this up. You don't know what half of it means anyway. They've got these words that are like this long, and it's like, is that even English? What is that? And you go along with it, right? Well, God's not trying to fool us. Thankfully, he's not an attorney. He doesn't pull those spots. He makes it very clear. He says, if you do this, this, and this, you're good. If not, brimstone and hellfire. Obviously, God had a plan before any of this happened. He placed us in the perfection of His creation, the Garden of Eden, and gave us eternal bliss. And He's promised eternal bliss. But He also gave us something else. What was that? Besides putting us there, they had what? They had free will, didn't they? They had a choice, right? We're not going to go through that really in detail. Remember we were talking about that? My wife said that Eve couldn't stay on her diet. He put him in there and he said, you've got 1 billion acres of beautiful forest here. Don't mess with that one stinking tree. And they couldn't leave it alone. One tree. You can have any of these others. What was it about that? Cookie jar sitting right there on the counter. Jesse, don't touch that. Okay, Dad. 15 minutes later. Jess, what are you doing? Those cookie crumbs I told you not to touch those cookies? No, Dad. Those aren't cookie crumbs. Cookie jar's empty. We always mess with the things we're told not to, don't we? Right? You just can't. Right? It's like, oh, don't touch those drums. Oh, you just can't resist the draw, can you? It's what we do. It's human nature. So then, the supposedly smarter people tell you, oh, this is how you psych your kids. Use reverse psychology on them, right? If you want them to do something, tell them not to. And you just can't hold back then. It's like this magnetic force pulling you in and you got to, right? Oh, I need to do that. Because Dad said not to. And like, that worked. It worked. Sometimes. Until they get a little older. They get past 3 and then they're smarter than you, right? Then they figure it out. They're like, oh yeah, he's trying that reverse psychology thing again. All right. I'll let him think he's winning. So being the all-knowing God, He knew, of course, that we were going to mess it up. That she wasn't going to stay on her diet, right? So He tells us in Revelation, behold, the Lamb slain before the foundation of the world, the sinless sacrifice who became sin for us all. Jesus, the once and eternal Redeemer, because having free will, He already knew what we were going to do. And did we ever? So, who's this great sinless sacrifice? Glad you asked. See? Okay, so this is not after Jesus was born. This is not after His ministry. It was not after the time He was crucified. Not after the time that He rose back to heaven. This was hundreds of years beforehand, wasn't it? It's the Old Testament. Right? Who has believed our report, and to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed? The arm. He didn't say my lost second cousin. He didn't say some random guy that I met that I said, hey, you want to make $50 today? Come on over, I'll give you some day labor. So this is the arm of the Lord, His peace, right? Part of Him. He has constructed this for a specific purpose. Now somebody says, this is my right arm or my right hand. What do you assume about that other person? If the guy that's saying that is an authority, right? Okay, let's say the governor, the president, whatever. Let's say President Trump's, this guy here, he's in my right hand. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's say Vice President Pence. Yeah. Okay. So what does that indicate to you? If he says this is my right hand or this is my arm, he's got authority too, doesn't he? You should respect whoever that person is. It could be one or two, right? But that person's got authority and power behind him. It's been vested to him, right? Given. He's commissioned authority. For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant and as a root out of a dry ground. He has no form nor comeliness, and we shall see him. There is no beauty that we should desire him. All right, so you'll ever see a lot of these supposed paintings of Jesus, right? You know, this pretty good-looking dude with long, flowing hair, and he's like, oh, you know, there's like doves hovering around him. You really think he looked anything like that?
No, not
First of all, a lot of those paintings come from medieval Europe, right? So they're showing him as a white man, right? I mean, look at his features. He looks very European. He was not European. He's Jewish. Okay? So he was not a great-looking guy. It specifically tells us right here he was not a supermodel, okay?
He was plain.
He was definitely not a supermodel. He didn't have massive muscles and a chiseled profile and that jaw that every guy wants to die for. And that should be my jawline. Because look at the women, they're like, oh. That was not him. That was not him. He didn't come here to impress us with his incredible biceps. He's not Schwarzenegger's cousin. It says right here that he was not a good-looking guy. He says he was just average, plain. We should not desire him. Yeah, it looks that way. Okay. Okay, so now we kind of went through, what his physical form is here, right? He doesn't have bulging biceps, not popping out of his shirt, right? He's despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows, and acquainted with grief, and we hid, as it were, our face from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Wow. It says despised. Nice. What does the word despise mean? You just walk up to somebody and you say, I don't like you much. Right? And then you say, I think I kind of hate you. But then you say, dude, I despise you. That's harsh. That's big. You really, really do not want to be in a room with whoever this person is. You don't want to hear from them. You don't want to text from them. You see they're calling you and they're like, wait, okay, block number feature on. Despised. Why?
Yeah, I was thinking, he was despised by the neighborhood he came from, and after, from the occupation of his father, compliment. I mean, really despised because of that. And of course, it really
there you go. All right, those are very, very good observations. You probably didn't pick up from the microphone, but brother was saying that nobody from the neighborhood thought he was anything. Nobody from the city thought he was anything. Even some people from outside said, what, any decent, good thing ever came out of Nazareth? I knew this kid. I used to hang out with him. He ran with the neighborhood bunch. And you're telling me that he's the Messiah? You gotta be kidding. But yet, that's exactly what he was facing. The same when he went to his own people, to his own hometown, that he could do no miracles there because of their unbelief, right? They had no respect at all for him because they're like, oh, I knew his dad, I knew his mother, and there was that whole weird thing with her being pregnant and not married. I don't know what, really. I'm sure that rumor didn't die off for a while. Right? Yeah. Small towns, does everybody know everybody's business? Anybody from a small town? Especially remember, like back in the day where all the mothers were always looking out the window, right? If you did something, what happened? First, you'd get yelled at by the neighbors, wouldn't you? And then they would they would call or go over and whatever, tell your parents, and when you got home, it was round two, wasn't it? It was on. Yeah, right? Forget about this not sparing the rod and all of that stuff, right? Yeah. So,
Story got home before you did.
it was one of my female friends from Pennsylvania posted, I got slapped so hard I got factory reset. Now that was fun. She said back in the day. They got it. They started with it. Okay, so now we figured out, A, he's not a supermodel. B, nobody really likes him. They're like, well, we know where this guy came from. Says he was despised, like we just went over, right? Now, what happens because of all of that? Well, now if he's just going to buy a 3-bedroom and disappear into suburbia, wouldn't have mattered, right? Well, what happened? They'd be like, oh yeah, there's that average-looking dude lives down the street, and the average-looking wife punched out some average-looking children. They go about their business. But that wasn't his mission, was it?
No.
He didn't get married. He didn't have a house in the suburbs. He didn't have any children. He was here for one purpose. Well, actually 2 purposes. He was here to teach, and he was here to die. Straight up. Really, that's the truth. He was wounded for our transgressions, bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. That is a pretty solid paragraph. It's only on screen 3 lines long. Look at all of what that actually says. That's big. That's big. Sorry, let me cycle back for a second. So he got beat up for the bad things we did. Anybody ever got to slap a factory reset for something that your brother or your sister did?
Yeah.
Your parents blamed you for it? Okay. Jesse was so off the hook when he was young that one time Isabella got away with that. She blamed him for something, and his mother believed her story. He's like, "But Mom, I didn't do it." And Bella's like, and she found out later because Bell fessed up to it. He's like, "I told you." And Mom's like, "Yeah, Jess, all the other times it was true." And he's like, "Okay, yeah, you got me." So he got wounded for Bell's transgression, didn't he? But Jesus was wounded for all of us. Every single one of them. He was bruised for our iniquities. The things we didn't do right. Maybe the things we thought about even doing that weren't right. Right? Isn't that what it says? The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. So he was despised. He was smacked. He was beaten. He was mocked by the Romans. Right? Didn't they put a robe on him, mocking, and a crown of like spiky? I mean, yeah. When they're talking about that thorn crown, sometimes you see it reproduced like a play or whatever, and there's like, spikes. Like, oh no, dude. No, you could jam them and you wouldn't need a little bit, right? No, these things were railroad spikes. That would have been some kind of pain. Because that would have dug all the way through the outside and down into the meat, into your skull skin, right? And head wounds are kind of painful to begin with, so imagine what that would have been like. And when they went to take it off, I'm sure they didn't just politely. You can guarantee a lot of those busted off and stayed in there. That was bad. He was really taking a beating for us. And then he was whipped, right? He was flogged. Cat of 9 tails. Now that's a piece of work there. The first couple of times, you're going to bleed. After that, it starts ripping meat off of your back. You will be laid open. And it says he was also beaten, and our stripes. We are healed with his stripes. How's that making sense? How are we getting healed by him being beaten? Weird, isn't it? I'm not sure I actually have an explanation for that, honestly. That is something that's a mystery of God. But he took upon all of that for us. If we are the remission of our sins, we are forgiven for our transgressions and our iniquities. If that works in that manner, why wouldn't we be healed by his beating as well? He's taking upon the physical injuries that we sustain. He turns it around and says, I take it away. I take it to myself. That's the only thing that I can come up with. Maybe a scholar who's a better thinker than I has a bigger answer for that, but that's how I see it. And I think I'm out of time. So, thank you for tuning in for whoever is out on broadcast. So we'll probably have one more part, possibly two. So make sure to tune in for anybody who's watching to see Pastor Hill very soon. We'll be back after break.
Thank you.